A car tracker expert expected to continue giving his testimony in the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial in Pretoria High Court this morning. Yesterday, Michael du Preez returning to the stand with a detailed report of the police cars that were used to transport accused number 1 and 2, Muzi, Sibiya and Bongani Ntanzi in 2020. Now, the report revealed the possibility of one of the cars stopping at the Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital. Now, this is on the day that Ntanzi alleges he was tortured into signing a confession statement. Ntanzi previously claiming that the police stopped at Bara to meet with Colonel Mohale Raphadu, who took down the alleged confession at the Moroka Police Station. Let's remind you that 5 men are on trial for the soccer star's murder. All right, joining us in studio now is Mnisi, usually outside court, but today he joins us in studio. Linda, good morning to you. So, This car tracking system, are we beginning to see cracks, or is the story of the state witnesses still solid?
Well, you'll remember, Koli, that the reason why we are hearing more detailed information around this car tracking evidence is because there's an allegation of torture and assault here, right, by particularly Bongani Ntanzi, who said before he was taken to Moroka Police Station on the 19th of June 2020, they made several stops, and in these stops, in some of the areas, he was tortured. So it was giving now a more detailed version of where exactly the car was and where it was traveling in. One of the stops that he said were made was at the Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital. And this is where he says the person who is a state witness, or is a state witness in this trial, was picked up. And then they moved to an open area, a dumping site in Orlando, near old unused ATMs, where he was assaulted, he was tortured. Brigadier Geninda, who's the lead investigator, Sergeant Mohale, who's also another lead investigator, were there, and they gave him an already compiled confession statement to sign. So when you look at this car tracking evidence, it then points to the fact that the car moved around Chris Hani Road. And then when it got to near the gate of Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital, it did something called a GPS unlocked. Now, the expert says he can't really tell what exactly it was or whether the car was moving or whatever may have happened, but he can say that the car may have entered Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital. And then he then goes on to say it then moved and went straight to Moroka Police Station. So it did not go to the Orlando dumping site, where he then alleges that he was actually assaulted. So the mere stop at Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital, he claimed that it was to pick up Colonel Raphadu.
Colonel Raphadu, wasn't there evidence suggesting that he had never been to Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital?
Yeah, that's what he said, in fact. He said he had never been to Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital on that day. He was stationed at Moroka Police Station. That is actually the first time that he saw Bongani Ntanzi. He saw him at, Moroka Police Station. And it's important, if you take into context the role that he played in this confession statement. You'll remember that a peace officer is someone who's not involved in the investigations, who is not privy to the facts of the case or the merits of the case, and that is why they're sometimes regarded as objective, people who would then take the confession statement. Now, the allegation is that he was at Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital, and obviously raises around a lot of questions around whether or not he knew that Bongani Ntanzi would be coming and would be stopping at the Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital.
Very briefly, was there explanation, or has there been explanation for why the police took a turn to Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital to begin with?
You'll remember that the police who were driving Bongani Ntanzi on that day said they never made a stop at Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital. They testified before this particular evidence, and they said we never made a stop at Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital. Now, this, it's important also to point out, Oli, that the witness, Michael du Preez, says that he is not sure. It's mere speculation because it does not show the car actually entering, but it may have entered. The words that he uses, it may have entered, because when it reaches the gate of Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital, what it then does is that GPS unlocked, which he really can't explain.
Yeah.
Right, what it is. But he says the car may have entered, but it's mere speculation since it's not reflected on the report that indeed the car was inside Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital at the time.
Mnisi, thank you very much for that particular update. Interesting story, and we continue to cover that trial for you.